Wesley Grimm is a tax associate at Weber, Wenzel, Linkletter. I want to ask him how much tax a company can save off of its bottom line when including learners in their workforce. Thanks for joining me, Wesley. I appreciate your being here. Now, as a tax practitioner, let's talk about 12H and 12H tax savings, which work for those companies who are prepared to take learners on. I know there's a distinction between the saving, which can be accrued on behalf of a learner who is not disabled and one who is disabled. So maybe you can address both of those.
Perfect. I will thank you for that, and thank you for having me. The most incredible thing about Section 12 Cap H is that it provides for an incentive to a company to employ and enter into a learnership agreement with persons suffering with disabilities. If you have a look at the provisions of Section 12 Cap H, there are where a person or a learner has an NQF qualification between 1 and 6, a standard allowance under 12 Cap H of 40,000 Rand is allowed to them. Whereas if that person is a person with a disability, as we commonly understand a disability is a general impairment on a person's abilities, be it physical, mental or intellectual, that company may claim an additional 20,000 Rand deduction under 12 Cap H. Where that person, that learner is a person with a disability and they have an NQF qualification between 7 and 10, that allowance is 50,000 Rand instead of the 20,000 Rand. If we can play this into a practical example, where a company enters into a learnership agreement with 10 such learners in an NQF qualification of 1 to 6, they are able to save an additional 400,000 Rand from their taxable income. The tax benefit of that is 112,000 Rand to that company. They essentially pay 112,000 Rand less tax in that particular year of assessment.
Does their tax rate affect the amount that they save at the end of the day?
100% correct. So that example was premised on the fact that it's a company that would be employing those persons, and a company would pay tax at a rate of 28%.
So it's 112,000 Rand?
112,000 Rand.
Well, that's huge.
That is a lot of money.
If a company takes on 20 learners, you're talking about huge amounts of money that they can be saving over and above what they get from a SETA in terms of grants for those learnerships.
That is 100% correct.
Why are companies not grabbing the opportunity?
That is a question, and that is an excellent question, and one that needs to be addressed at a broader grassroots level, one that we need a bigger discussion on, and that's where we have buy-in from companies and business, as well as the public at large, and particularly persons with disabilities, as well as government.
It's a massive opportunity. I just want to finally ask you one question in terms of what you just said. That 40,000 Rand deduction for a person without disability who is on the learnership is what can be deducted up front the moment the contract is signed, and then an additional 40,000 Rand when it's completed, right?
Yes, so the way Section 12 Cap H works is that there's an annual allowance, in your example the 40,000 Rand, and that can be applied for on an annual basis provided the requirements are met. For example, that there's a learnership agreement, there's an employer, that they enter into a learnership agreement with a particular learner as defined, and that learnership agreement relates to that employer's trade. So there's, as we correctly said, there is the annual allowance, and then on completion, there is an additional booster allowance of the same amount.
It doesn't make sense that there aren't hundreds of thousands of people on learnerships in this country for companies which are ostensibly declaring a net profit after tax. It just doesn't logically make sense. I mean, your numbers, yours, not my numbers, your numbers are 80,000 Rand per non-disabled learner and 120,000 Rand per disabled learner, which is deductible, half of it up front and half of it on completion of the learnership. That's immense.
That is immense.
Wesley Grimm, it's amazing having you here. Thank you very much. You're certainly coming back onto this show.
Thank you, Ivor. Thank you for having me.